Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson with Watauga County Arts Council, and I'm back again to share some of what's going on in the arts right now. You know, the COVID-19 might have shut us all down and kept us at home, but I can assure you the creativity did not stop flowing when we stopped moving around. And I've been talking to artists, and they've been telling me about some of the great things they're doing, and I wanted to share that with you. So today I brought Mary Gray to meet you, and Mary's an old friend. I've known Mary for many, many years as mostly a writer. You've also been a volunteer with several activities such as the Have a Dream Task Force and so forth. I think that's really how I got to know you. So, but welcome, Mary.
Thank you very much, Terry.
And Mary, as you can tell from her accent, ain't from around here. Tell us about Mary. Where are you from?
I'm from rural West Wales. Actually, it's Dylan Thomas country, very much. It's where he came from. Both his families came from nearby. Yeah.
That is cool. And so how did you get to the United States?
I took a roundabout route. I went first to work in Africa when I was 23 in Lesotho, which is right down in southern Africa. I worked there for 2 years. Then I went to work in Uganda for 2 years. Not the greatest timing because Amin was in power at that time. But I still enjoyed it and learned a lot. And then I was home for a while, some years. My mother was very ill, so I took care of her. And then after she died, I went to Cameroon in West Africa. By that time, I was a Baha'i. I became a Baha'i in Uganda. And I went there to help the Baha'is and to look for a job. I didn't find a job, but I met Richard, who I married. And then I started to teach at the same school where he was teaching. And then after that, we went to Canada for him to do a PhD in Toronto. We did 1 year in Washington State. And then we did 4 years in Toronto, and 1 year at Washington State, 2 years in Denmark, and then finally we came back to the States.
My word, you are a world traveler in every sense of the term.
He teaches at ASU. He's an astronomer and a physicist. And we just came back from another trip to South Africa where he was a Fulbright scholar.
You were there for what was supposed to be a year, right?
Yes, that's right. But because of this virus, in late March, they said, just come home as fast as you can. And
before they close the gates.
Because if we'd stayed a week longer, we would have been stuck.
Yeah.
And the US government had to charter planes to bring 900 Americans out of South Africa. Wow. So we got there a week before. Yes.
Wow. She barely squeaked right through the gate. Now, you sent me a couple of delightful emails while you were in Africa about, because if I understood you correctly, Richard was a very busy man. He was getting out and doing all the things he was supposed to do for his Fulbright assignment. And you were kind of on your own.
Much of it, yes, but I enjoyed it. I needed to write a memoir of my mother for my family because no one else was going to do it. And so that took me about 2 months or more. And then I started working on other things. And I wrote a story and then a one-act play because there was a very early Baha'i from Africa who was in Iran. And he is quite a hero. And so I thought the African people really need this story. And they didn't have it. So I wrote a story and then my publisher said, well, can you do a play as well? So I had written a very simple multimedia thing for children, but I opted and wrote a longer one-act play for adults and youth to act, with some roles for children in it as well. So I just sent that off yesterday. And that's when I think it was 2 days ago, I emailed you that I was coming up for air before I started something else. But I'm also a storyteller, so my publisher also wants a book to help other people tell stories. So that's my next project.
That is cool. Now, you sent me an email a couple of days ago, 2 or 3 poems that I just found. I think it was 2 poems. that I found quite delightful, especially one of them. I was really enchanted with that one. And well, I want you to read those for us if you could. Could you read them?
I've got one in my hand. The other
Uh-huh.
two I'd have to print up and do.
Okay, well, we'll deal with the one right now.
Yes. This is the one you liked, I think, was A Bridge Too Far.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
So this is remembering an incident in Cameroon where I met and married Richard. And it's dated 1982, but I only wrote it about 2 years ago. And that's the thing with poetry. Something from way back can suddenly hit you and you say, all right, yes, that's it. So this is called A Bridge Too Far. Republic of Cameroon, West Africa, 1982. There was a well-loved bridge in my childhood, a small stone bridge on a quiet Welsh road with low stone parapets that a child could lean over to see the river below. A perfect bridge for children to play poo sticks, tossing twigs in on one side, then rushing safely across the road to watch the twigs emerge and see who had won. But this bridge, made of wooden slats and rope, has no railings at all and is less than 8 feet wide, slung between rusting iron cables, a bridge over a green, scum-covered African river, a bridge built by German colonists who were forced to leave Cameroon in 1918. And this is 1982. And what crocodiles, snakes, leeches may lurk in its sluggish waters. Richard has crossed it and waves from the far side, but I am here playing chicken. I make the decision. If he can, I can. But what you don't know before you begin is that each step sets up longitudinal vibrations that start the whole thing shimmying. And a large Cameroonian woman has just stepped onto the bridge from the far side, a wide tray of yams on her head, and behind her, 3 children with shorter strides, all with loads on their heads. The bridge shimmies and quakes in rapid contrapuntal rhythms, and we meet in the middle. She shifts only slightly as we pass. She is heading for the local market with her yams and children. How I reached the other side, I can't remember, nor how I got safely back. But sometimes in my dreams, I get a vivid flash of that shimmying bridge and that green sluggish river that I never even needed to cross.
That is so cool.
I muddled up, I didn't get a couple of words right. I stumbled in it.
I got it.
What it looks like.
That's really, yeah. That was one thing that enchanted me, was the way that you had done a visual display as well as the words. And it just kind of added a whole nother dimension to the whole thing. So,
I don't think it shows up on the Zoom. It won't show up.
well, I will take it and we'll insert it,
Yes. Well,
But-
thank you for letting me read it.
I'm happy to have you read that poem. Now, you have come many times to Blue Ridge Art Space in the past and done storytelling for us on our second Saturdays and told all kinds of fascinating tales of all sorts of places and things. And it's been a joy to have you. And I don't know when we're going to be able to do it again, but we definitely do want to do it again when the time is right. But now, Mary, what do you do with your writing? What happens when you write a poem or a play or whatever? Do you sell it? Do you publish it? What do you do?
Well, I've been very lucky to have a very good Baha'i publisher, probably the leading one anywhere in the world. And I worked for them in Oxford in 1974 to 5. I worked as an editorial assistant. Actually, it was such a small publisher. I learned to do lots of different things. In a small place, you learn more, because in a big one, you're only proofreading or you're only doing covers or something. But it showed me what it was. I did not want to stay there because, my eyes were out on stalks. I did so much proofreading. I was only there 6 months. And I knew it wasn't for me permanently. But fortunately, they ran out of money to pay me after 6 months. I had to apologize. They had to let me go. I was last in, first out. But I really didn't mind. But I'd known, I wrote my first poem when I was 11. I can remember lying in bed and composing it. And I knew I wanted to write. So the Baha'i faith is something that is very important to me. So I started writing simple books about the history. And I wrote 3 on the central figures. And then I wrote others. And I wrote a book, co-authored one, 1980 it was published with another Baha'i, and it was published by an educational publisher, and it did very well. And the Baha'is all over the world liked it, so it was translated into about 11 languages. I'm not sure they're all still in print, but it was republished for the 3rd time in Australia in 2008, and it's still going on there. And some of my books have been translated, the history ones have been translated into Swahili and Chinese. So that's enormously exciting to me because, if the Chinese people are 1/4 of the world's population, I think. So although it's small beginnings, I sat and wept when they told me that it was going to be in Chinese. I wept for a whole day. I couldn't stop.
That is incredible.
It's so amazing that I would be able to get a book into Chinese. Oh, and one of them, the co-authored one, was the very first book about the Baha'i teachings to be distributed in Russia after the wall came down. It was the first book to be taken in because my co-author, his son, was living in Moscow and was a Baha'i. And I remember he phoned me one time and said, "Mary, I've just taken 7,000 copies of your book to Siberia." Sort of knocked me sideways. But it's something I'm very, it's like my compass in life. So if you want to write and you have the great good fortune to write about what is so important to you, I think it's an extraordinary privilege. Of course, it doesn't pay bills much. Richard pays.
Fortunately, there's Richard.
Yes, but I have a small business as well in Wales. I inherited 2 beautiful traditional holiday cottages, and it's taken me 40 years of slow, bit-by-bit improvements to get them to the state that they should be in. And I've had an absolutely brilliant roofer, mason, builder. Richard can do everything except the plumbing and the electricity. This is another Richard. So that has been a real blessing. And I have a website that people can go online and see them. Of course, this season, there's nobody there because I do short holiday lets.
Right.
But that does give me some income to add to our family income.
So is that something like an Airbnb here, the same concept?
I guess it is a bit, yes. In Pembrokeshire, the tourism and ecotourism is very big. So there are many, many small cottages. Sometimes it's a problem because too many have been bought by people from away, and then it's hard for local people to buy properties. Oh, and one other thing, my Baha'i publisher actually published a book of my poems about Wales with a different imprint that they had. So I do have a small book of poems available on Amazon, mostly about Wales. It's something like a memoir in prose. And I think you have one in the Arts Council on the shelf, the book.
I think I do. Yeah, I think it's in my office, actually. So, or maybe not. Maybe, anyway, we do have it. Question now, if you've got all these books, do you have copies of all these yourself? Do you, all these published books? And so forth? Do you sell them anywhere?
They sell on Amazon. My writing name is Mary Perkins. It's not Mary Gray because I started publishing before I met Richard and got married. So I just kept that name. Yeah.
So it's your nom de plume.
At that point, I want to create instead of a visiting card thing, I want to do a bookmark that has the Welsh cottages on one side and my own books on the other. But I haven't got to that yet. I have to confess to being a real techno peasant when I am on a computer.
Now, she had to get her husband to help us with the video here to get her online. So I guess I don't know if this is a moot question or not. I know you told me you're not on Facebook. Do you have a website where people can learn about your work except they can go through Amazon, right?
Not yet, and I haven't even put it on Amazon, but I mean to do that. I have to get caught up. And being on Zoom is a start.
It is. It's a great start.
It is.
Great way to visit. I enjoy seeing my friends.
Yes, great. And I'm grateful to you because I love telling stories. I started that when we lived in Toronto, and it was just wonderful. And so I still love doing that.
Well, I have an idea. I think that what we should do is periodically run a Zoom just for you just to read us a story or tell us a story and just post them. I think that would be fun. That would get you out on the internet, and it would help the Arts Council to spread the word. So
yes, thank you. That would be great.
All right, so folks, you keep watching. You're going to see a lot more of Mary Perkins or Mary Gray, whichever way you want to call it. But do you prefer still to be called Mary Gray? Or
if you say Mary Perkins Gray, then it
gotcha. We solved all the problems.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward.
I quite like being incognito. That don't know me as Mary Perkins, but
now the secret's out. So. Well, folks, check it out. Watch our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and also our website, because you're going to see more from Mary and from many, many other artists, too. I'm just going to show off as many artists as I can. I have only 12 more weeks with the Arts Council, and when I am done, I hope that someone will carry this on and do it continuously. But right now, while we're all shut down, I'm really enjoying sharing the artists with you, so I hope you'll tune in frequently and watch these videos and get to know these artists a little bit better than you did. Many times people don't even realize they're here. You've seen Mary in the grocery store. You didn't know who that was. Now you do. So please enjoy the arts in our community. There's so much to enjoy. It's such a rich community when it comes to the arts. So Mary, thank you for adding to that richness. We're thankful that you're part of it.
Thank you so much. I'd like to add one thing, that on Amazon, there may be another Mary Perkins. It's a fairly common sort of name. But the first of my books is called Hour of the Dawn. This story of the Bab, who was the first messenger of the Baha'i faith. Yeah. So if you look for Hour of the Dawn and Day of Glory, there are 3 there on the history. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to look for it. Thank you. I am going to look for it. I didn't even realize you had all of that, so we're going to check it out.
Thanks, Jerry.
Well, folks, join us again, and I'll introduce you to somebody else. But right now, I'm thankful that you got to see Mary, and watch for snippets of Mary reading poems to us on down the way, just when you least expect it. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jerry.